Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you for joining me tonight on In Review, the late one, where we look at some of the top news of the world and try to get with my guests from all over the world. Those on Instagram, thank you so much. Mags, Amika, um, and Mind Platter. For those on Facebook, thank you so much for joining. And remember to like and share and to be a part of the conversation. That's the most important thing, to be a part of the conversation. Well, we are in troubling times, ladies and gentlemen. We're still in troubling times with this world, the world that we live in, this beautiful world. There's a great song that Lou Rawls sing, and he says, "What's the matter with the world? As the world gone mad?" That's what he says. What's the matter with the world? As the world gone mad? And then if he completes the song by saying, he answers the question by saying, "Nothing's wrong with the world. It's the people that is in it." Nothing's wrong with the world. It's the people that is in it. But fortunately, tonight, I have great people on the show, and they are great people that will make it happen. And first and foremost, let me bring in my regular guest, um, my co host, Mr. Gary Graham. How are you doing, sir?
Well, it's a great privilege again that I can be on the great Seymour City Worldwide show.
Exactly. I like that. The worldwide show in review. Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard that? Straight out of the mouth of the minister. And in the minister speak, that's the word of the Lord. And I've got my special guest here tonight, all the way from Sri Lanka. How are you doing, Mihui Jurin?
Yeah, good to be in an interesting discussion today. I'm okay, so I'm very happy. I'm happy to
Yes.
share my views
Well, ladies and
in
gentlemen,
the troubled times.
Muhit Jiran is a good friend of mine. He's from Sri Lanka and he's an international human rights activist, international political lobbyist, and strategist. And we have had many discussions at many times on politics. Don't ask me how did I reach to Sri Lanka? I don't know, but last week I was in Poland. Next week I might, who knows? Next week I might have Trump, or as a matter of fact, who knows? We may have to broker a deal between Zelensky and
Richard,
Putin, isn't it?
that'd be nice.
Don't
That'd be
you think so, Muhit? I mean, and Gary, I mean, the world leaders have let us down. We have to maybe do it ourselves, isn't it?
good. Well, I'm sure if you're given the chance, Sylbourne, you'll be able to make a difference.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, Muhit, first of all, how are you, sir? And tell us about yourself and how is Sri Lanka?
Yeah, I'm an international human rights activist and a political lobbyist and a strategist, and I was a Tory always, and
You're what?
Sri Lanka, yeah, Tory, so you know that
Oh, you're
conservative,
a Tory.
and
Man,
yeah.
you have conservative all the way in Sri Lanka.
Yes, yeah. So what I have to say is like in currently in Sri Lanka, like we are having a very bad, hard time where the economy is not in a good shape.
Yes.
The COVID plus some wrong economic policies of the government is made this situation, and
Yes.
it's kind of a very tough moment. Like to be honest, have to be people are have no clue what is going to happen next. So that's the situation here.
And it's very interesting though. I mean, what is happening in the world now regarding Putin and Ukraine, we got to remember that there are other parts of the world where we're having serious problems as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know, Gary,
yeah.
how are you, sir? And how's your week?
Well, my week was quite eventful up until now, really. I've been a little busy. Um, Went to a few did a few ministerial duties as I need to do, and tomorrow will be the same. But it's been good, and at least watching the news, keeping up to
Mhm.
date with what's taking place in and around the world. Some news not so good, some news devastating, but again,
Yeah.
the, there's one and two that can put a smile on your face, even though I can't really think of one at the moment.
well, well, it's interesting you said you were doing your ministerial duties. It sounded like when Boris Johnson, or the Prime Minister, is at the dispatch box and he said, I was doing my ministerial duties in the morning. It's a similar thing, isn't it?
Well, yes.
You know?
Only that sometimes you wonder if his ministerial duties included Partygate.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I've just like sort of a quick sort of overview, and I was looking at Europe has discovered its compassion for refugees, and the topic says, but only if they are white. Let's leave that one there. Ukrainians with passport can apply for UK visas online. Of course, you know there's a big thing now regarding Ukrainians coming to the UK, and I'm finding it also very concerning how they are penalizing these oligarchs like Roman Abramovich, those guys who came into the UK and supported the economy with Chelsea. And it's like these big guys and these rich guys, I think they're going to say, man, we're not going to go back to places like the UK. We're going to go to India and some other countries. They should go to Sri Lanka, isn't it, Muid?
You never know. But the Sri Lankan, if you're looking at the Sri Lankan situation currently, I don't think like these people will travel to Sri Lanka, because they're also a bit worried about their money, So if you bring the money on a very unstable economy, there is no guarantee. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Well, listen. Let's go straight into it, and let's talk about Ukraine and Russia. We thought by now there could be a break of light, whereby we could see some sort of resolution, but it seemed like we're nowhere in sight of any resolution. Muhaid, what's your take? Because you're the main guest tonight. What's your take on what's happening, and what's your thoughts regarding there? Yeah.
If you look at the situation, it looks very confusing based on you are reading the news items about
Yeah.
these current the current the crisis between Ukraine and Russia. But I felt it like, for my understanding, uh, I had to be very clear on this. This is a game. This is a gameplay where the Ukraine is the bait of the hook to catch the whale. That's the plan is going on now. So if you're looking at all this situation, uh, you know, uh, the I think the Putin made the wrong calculation. This is what I'm seeing.
Mm.
Why? Why? If you see, uh, you know, Ukraine is a sovereign state.
Mm.
So if you're going into a sovereign state without their permission, it's illegal. Now, a lot of people asking about this war crime. Is about you're attacking the civilian areas, but even you are going into military is going inside an illegal territory. Territory illegally is also part of the war crime. That has to be accepted. So I think what the problem here is, what the Western Bloc did is they used the Ukraine as a bait, and
Mm.
keeping a hook to catch the whale. That is Russia, and also the Russia made the wrong calculations. Instead of they have to wait for sometimes they have to go with the talks. They had to continue with the talks. Instead of that, they were like without any valid reason they went in now. But why the West is just waiting and they are just giving support to the Ukraine, because in reality, uh, Zelensky is a president who made a surprise election victory in Ukraine by getting more than 75 nearly 75 percentage of the voters,
Yeah.
where he's not a politician at all. He was just suddenly he was doing some comedy documentary, and through that documentary name he made a political party, and he contested the election and he won, and his party, like servant of people, the party has won a landslide in the general election also. So if you
Yeah.
see the time frame is very short time frame, that is about 2 years of his ruling time frame. So Still he's not an unpopular leader. He's a popular leader.
Can I
So
can I
the people are with him.
yeah. Can I just ask a question here? But why do they say he's a puppet of the Americans?
It's they are saying he's a puppet of the American, but what I can see is, uh, if you see, since this Ukraine breakaway from Soviet Union,
Mm,
and if you see the leaderships, most of the leaderships are, uh, Putin tried to keep his grip on the leadership by stating that he wanted to make sure that his national security, to be safeguarded. That is what he's saying. Okay, but when it's come to Zelensky, he came on a very different approach, and he was become a sudden surprise. What do you call a popular leader?
mm,
A majority of the people. Then, Zelensky know that, okay, he will never going to bow down to Putin. He wanted to go on a different route, where he wanted to have some sort of backup support, because
mm,
you know that when it's come to military side, Putin has more military power compared with Ukraine, right? Very powerful, and he needs to have some powerful backers behind him, where there he is trying to creating the relationship with US as well as certain Western blocs. In order, he knows that if you don't bow down to Putin, and very soon Putin will use his power either militarily, or maybe like creating some internal uprising to topple this leader. So, in order to prevent that, he is creating the circle of guards, by approaching these particular blocks, which is not friendly with Russia. So
okay.
I don't think, yeah.
Mm. If I just bring in Gary, you know what Muir said a while ago that um, Ukraine is like a pawn at this moment in a bigger thing. It's like a pawn right now. It's like Russia is against Ukraine, but there's a bigger picture. What's your take on that? I think we have been saying that, but what's your take on that point there?
I would partly, well, agree with what Muhid has been saying, to some extent, if I understand what he is saying, in that um before the
Zelensky.
yeah before he came in, yeah,
Yes.
obviously their their president was someone with whom Putin could identify with. Now, obviously, with Zelensky coming in and winning the popular vote, he is more free-minded. He's more democratized, if I can use that word.
Mm,
He is not influenced at all, and he has not. Well, as Muhid also said, he's not a politician like Trump. Trump was never a politician. That's not his. That's not his profession.
mm.
He's a comedian. It's totally far removed from politics. So for him now to be for him to be selected by the country, 75% of the country, to run the country that he knows nothing about it by way of politics, and his mindset is not at all for communism or centralized government or anything. Obviously, everybody's going to say that he is a puppet of the United States, which of course I don't necessarily think so. He probably will very much be be you know that minded, free
Well,
minded. But
well,
I don't think to say just because he's not a puppet of the US of the Russian Federation, that he's a puppet of the US of the US government. I wouldn't necessarily say that.
welcome Michelle Clark, who's in the States, and she said because he is, USA is the one who put him in there. USA
Well,
put him in there. How did USA put him in there, Michelle? Oh,
well,
go on,
well.
Gary, please. Yes.
I mean, let me let me first. say hello to my probably one and only friend friend out there, and she may not really agree with me, or I may not necessarily agree with her on that point, on this particular point. I may lose my one friend, but but I don't think the U.S. has put him in. The U.S. may capitalize on the fact that 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 the Ukraine, because you must remember, the 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 Russian Federation has already had already warned the Ukraine government that, no, not warned the Ukraine, has warned NATO, do not come too close, because Russia has always been afraid that NATO may capitalize on the fact that Ukraine has gone free, and and the Russian Federation, or the Russian president fired a warning shot, so to speak, of the bowels of Ukraine, saying, "Do not, do not join NATO." That is the deciding point right there. You know, we must remember that. I think that has always been. I mean, NATO knows that. History will dictate. Even the I think it was Father Bush. I believe it was Father Bush that was a part of the arrangement around that area.
Yeah.
Leave Ukraine alone. There was
And they
so
and they and they
rigid.
assured they assured Putin or Russia that they
Yes.
wouldn't go there. Muirhead, you had a point
Yeah.
there in regards to this whole bit with NATO. Um, do you think then that Zelensky and Ukraine should, if they want to join NATO and the EU, right next door to Russia?
They have the sovereign rights to make the decision. It's a sovereign country. It is not a federal state or somebody's federal state. It's a sovereign nation. So every nation, sovereign country in the world has free to, because this is, we are talking about 21st century. It's all about respecting the human rights. So on the principle of human rights, everyone has a freedom of choice. So if the country is giving, a majority of the majority of people are voted of a president, and by knowing, okay, during the campaign, okay, like what you raised in the earlier about this puppet of US or puppet of Europe, it could have been raised in the during the campaign also, no? So by knowing all these things, people have voted for him. So he has given a free will to make the decision, right? So as a sovereign nation, they have a right to decide whether to join the NATO or whether to join the European Union. But all I have to tell that is, to my view, is by knowing the problem, by knowing the problem, that is, Russia is already warned the NATO, right, not to come to our doorstep. So what I feel it like, the Ukraine and the Russia and the world has failed their responsibility by knowing this problem. One day, if this problem is escalating to the point of nuclear war, everybody has to suffer. It's not about Europe, or it's not about Russia. It's about the entire planet has to suffer. So, one madman is going to push in the button. It's going to be a huge problem to the entire world. By knowing everything, it is a responsibility of the United Nations UN body, as it is the responsibility of NATO and any other recognized international bodies, to find an alternative solution. It's not about, Zelensky should be given some sort of an advice. And I'm telling you, say 2,000 kilometers of border between Russia and Ukraine. Okay, in that 2,000 kilometers of the border, Russia is telling us that we have a problem. If you come closer to our border, then we are having a threat with this NATO. So why can't this Russia, Ukraine, and other border countries of the countries which is bordered with this with the Western Bloc area, that is in the Eastern Europe, they can come with a treaty where, say for example, like about 50 kilometers inside the the border of Ukraine, and 50 kilometers inside the border of Russia, as about 100 kilometers, they can create a buffer zone. That buffer zone will be excluded from even Russia, or even any other border nations will be exclude this buffer zone whenever they're joining any international body. It's simple as it is. They are creating a buffer zone to make sure that I am safer from your side, and you are say, I don't think there is no problem for Ukraine instead of when it's come to Russia. But uh, because even if Russia joins anybody, it doesn't matter. But Russia is having a problem because if Ukraine joins European Union or NATO, they have a problem with their borders. They have a doubt on that, right? They
No,
put it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
let me finish.
yeah.
It is the Russia who wants the safety. So when they create a buffer zone, it will be benefiting Russia, where the NATO cannot be able to encroach the buffer zone, because that is exclusive for usage between Russia and Ukraine. Not for the international bodies.
So it seems to be very clear and evident, and something that we have been talking about since even COVID period, that the world, the leadership within the world at this time, the UN, America has somewhat failed, EU has somewhat failed in somewhat bringing these parties to the table to have some sort of discourse and some sort of discussion. Wouldn't you agree on that, Mira, that the world has somewhat missed an opportunity to create something? Because the way you spoke a while ago, I'd rather to have you speaking with Putin and Zelensky and setting out all these buffer zones. Why can't you do that? Why can't we should organize to get you to do that?
Yes, yes, that's what I'm also saying. I'm going to write up a proposal to make sure, let the people to read what should be the solution. Now look at this at the moment. There are two blocks. Now, as I said here, Ukraine, the war between Ukraine and Russia, the Russia has already lost the war. Because the Russia was expected to finish the war within a day or two. But it is as I said, they were going to hold the ground because of the resistance by the Ukrainian as a country. They are resisting as a country. It is not easy to hold the army in the ground. Even they are holding that the capital of Ukraine. They will never going to hold it because of the public agitation is there. It's not easy for them to uh, you know to uh, satisfy the publics who are resisting against the Russian forces. That is one of the issue. But and the other way around, because of they already been failing to grab their powerful army cannot be able to grab that ground in Ukraine, and the morality of the Russian soldiers are getting down. Now, what I am saying, that's what I am saying from the beginning. Ukraine is the bait of the hook put by the NATO against the whale, which is Putin, right?
Yeah.
Now, why I'm saying is, with this in this situation, the morality of the Russian military is getting down by one by it is slowly getting down, because they are failing. It's almost more than how many days is finished? 10 days or more than
Mm.
10, right? Right? More than
Well,
10 days. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So still they have no way of holding the ground. Second thing is, the West is doing it instead of they are getting even they are not applying the no-fly zone, which is very important to apply. They are not applying it.
Are you
Second is
supporting?
what they're
You're supporting a no-fly zone.
I am supporting for a no-fly zone, but what the West wanted, and if you allow the Russians to use the airspace, that second thing what the Russian will do is, now at the moment Russia is failing to hold the ground properly. The Russians will. It's as I said. You have to see the mentality of a nation with a popular animal in their nation. You understood how it works. Like in Russia, we are talking about the polar bear. So the same attitudes, they both share in the same attitudes, like the human and the polar bear. You see that, right? So what do you call the NATO and the Western Bloc? What are they doing is they are giving more support. Only they are giving more assistance, more support, more military materials and resources to Ukraine to resist, right? And on the other way around, they are putting all the sanction, right? And now why they are not implementing the no-fly zone? What, to my view, once the military is failing to hold the ground, they were going to use a warfare which is called sage warfare tactics. which
Mm.
is one of the warfare tactics they use in the military, where you have to cut off all the essential service. You know that you are going and hitting the water facilities, electricity facilities, like you try to cut off, like the food transportation. You try to cut off all the facilities. That will become the country will become more vulnerable that time. So when they are using that tactics, there they will going to use, and they will say, okay, you are going over the limit. Maybe like that time, the the morality of the Russian military is gone down, and the public of Russian public also lost their hope because of so much of sanctions, and they are agitated against the government. And
Yes.
that time, it could be the Western world will slowly move in. It's like, once you put the hook on the whale,
Okay.
then is the time they will go and pull it.
Yeah. Okay. I hear what you're saying, and I need to jump onto something else that links with this because while the whole world is focusing so much upon Ukraine now and Russia, it is as if to say nothing else is happening in the rest of the world. And you have touched a lot of points about human rights at this time, the rights of human. Gary, before I touch onto that, what's you have to say in regards to what Muet said? And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me tonight. Those on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, thank you. I'm joined here tonight by Muhed Jiran, international human rights activist based in Sri Lanka, international political lobbyist, and Reverend Gary Graham, who is keeping the peace and wanting to have a word with both Putin and Mr. Zelensky. Gary, what's your take on
Well, I mean, let me say that I'm God's representative on earth. So,
that? God's representative on it. Yes, yes, yes.
but um, in regards to the no-fly zone, I think that it would be a good idea, but we must be careful about that because obviously Russia has said that anyhow they see any other planes in the skies, they're going to shoot them down, and America doesn't want that. I don't think Europe is looking for that. They don't want another war. Now, I understand. I would agree with you, Muhead, on the skies needs to be controlled. But at the same time, how can Europe do that? How can the United States or NATO do that and not be drawn into a conflict that Russia has warned about? In regards to the buffer, the Russian Federation, Putin doesn't want a buffer.
Mm,
He wants Ukraine. He wants Ukraine. He's going all out. Now there are problems down there because obviously, if we if it was at all possible for some Sylbourne to put up a map showing the areas that Russia has controlled,
mm,
and the advances over a couple of days, it's very little. The news has already said that there seems to be a column 40 miles or 40-kilometer mile long Russian artillery, trucks and such that hasn't moved. They're bogged down, it would seem. There are problems with the supply lines and all sorts, even the conscripts that Putin, from what I've understood, Putin signed into law some years back that he would not send conscripts into war. Yet, that's what he's done. Mothers who has conscript sons, they weren't told that they were sending their sons into the Ukraine for war. They were told that they're going to Belarus or to Crimea or wherever, but not to Ukraine. So obviously they're being killed. No real advance has been made, and it would seem again that the only real damage that is being inflicted upon Ukraine is from the skies. So, so to some extent, Putin doesn't want a buffer zone, even if that is on the table. We don't know what is on the table, Silborn. I'm not
mm,
sure if you know, Muhead, if you know what's on the table. However, we are very much aware that a buffer zone seems not to be what Russia wants. They want Zelensky out, and they want to control and put their own puppet leader in government.
It seems it's like the playbook of the Americans for years, regime change, isn't it? Regime change, regime change, regime change. I say that because Michelle just put a point here a while ago, which I just want to flag up here, that says while we are here minding the white man business, America is bombing Syria, but not putting it on corporate media. And at the same time, I have another topic which I put up there, which is Europe has rediscovered compassion for refugees, but only if they're white. And this is relating to an article which was talking about how there's so much desire for refugees, but when black Africans and so that desire is not there. So things are happening in the world at the same time. What's your take on that in juxtaposing it, if I am Muirhead?
This is regarding the refugees you're talking.
Yeah, well, I'm linking that because I mentioned about Europe as regain its compassion for refugees, but they say only
Yeah.
right.
I think Europe has a moral responsibility to receive the refugees from Ukraine, but at the same time,
I don't think
uh,
anybody's saying that they don't. Nobody's saying that they don't. They're just talking about
no,
the
no, no, no. What I'm saying this, Europe has a responsibility to receive the refugees. At the same time, as well as you earlier said, there is something has to be very important. Zelensky is a very I would say is a clean leader. He's if you study about his his the way of his ruling, he's not a corrupt leader. He's a very clean leader compared with Putin, right? But he has been he needs some guidance of this time. Now, for example, there are some disturbing news. What I have seen that when the people with brown and the black skins have been subjected to racism in the border of Ukraine, especially Ukraine, some certain Ukraine military forces, as well as the public, and also the other way around on Polish. I saw there's one Polish a politician. He talks rubbish. He was talking about getting all the Ukrainian refugees, and at the same time he talks about they don't want to take about Muslims. What the hell is that? Where is the ethics of these people? They are calling themselves politicians, but the the mentality is like is far worse than animals. And I'm not discriminating the animals. I said that it's very far worse than that of thinking pattern, right? So that matter has to be addressed. But which leader is advising Zelensky to give a public statement? Don't do this, because that will affect him very badly. In an international community, even the politicians are playing a different ball game, but the public unpopularity against Ukraine could increase in the future, in the coming days, if they are not addressing this issue. But I'm not saying is the Ukrainian government is racism, or the Polish government is racism, but it's happening in the ground level. But there is a moral responsibility of the government to take a certain remedy to prevent this unfortunate incidents. So that is very important. So more than they are taking the compassionate on taking the refugees, it's very important. Don't hurt the people who are different colors.
Gary, thanks. The bit that Michelle talks about with Syria, and I didn't know that America is still bombing Syria, but maybe she knows more than I do. Is that the fact that America is still bombing Syria, Mohid? Is America still bombing Syria? Is there things going on
Uh,
still? I don't know.
I don't know. Actually, I didn't see these days. I was bit of very much concerning on this particular matter. Like, this is the news everywhere.
Yeah,
Uh, but without knowing the facts, uh, there is no point of I'm commenting on it.
yeah,
When it's come to, I think what I'm saying is this. Uh, you know, when we are sticking to a topic of a injustice,
yeah.
I would say that injustice has to be focused. But there are some other places there are injustice, but we cannot compare it. You understood that. But what is happening in the public mindset? uh, what's happening in Ukraine, and they said, no, no, look at this. This has happened here, but nothing has been done by the mainstream media. Okay, there should be a fault in it, but that doesn't mean that we cannot justifying what is happening here. So the topic is all about, we are talking about the crisis. If you see this, I'm not going to say that the human is human. It doesn't matter in Syria or Africa or anywhere. We have to respect. We all are human. We are part of the mankind, and we have a responsibility to safeguard and respect each other, and give the opportunity for everyone to survive in this earth. But the
Mm.
other way around. Now, the situation here, what we are worried is not about who is going to win in the war. We are a bit of worried about what will happen if one of the leader will become a madman by facing all these agitations. If one of the leader will become madman, and what is the stake of the general public in Europe and other part of the world, if
Well,
they are
well,
just butting?
they've said that Putin is a madman, and I always wonder, if he's a madman, why are you communicating with a madman? If you're communicating with a madman, then you're also a madman, as well. Um,
Yeah,
Gary, Gary, what's your take on that bit there in regards to the juxtaposing? I understand very clearly that one cannot sort of, a life is a life. You can't say, because that is happening there, you should take your eyes off there, or why you praying for those and you didn't pray for those. That's the sort of political, sociological, ideological thing going on now. But a life is a life, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, a life is a life. I mean, what we've got to understand, and I sympathize with my friend, my friend Michelle. She's putting up some very interesting comments there. Of course, I mean, not all of them I can always agree with,
Mm,
even though there's some truth to most of what you're saying, Michelle. I understand. But then we must understand, I believe, from where I'm sitting right now in my position, that there are certain things that's taking place in our world that I believe we've got to understand that there is a bigger picture. There is a picture that is being painted that I believe we've got to be able to see that these things must happen. Now, I don't want to get too um, I don't want to get too religious as far as my friend Sylbourne is talking about,
yeah,
but I do believe you raised a point there. I'm still going with Syria. Now, from what I understand, and I have been kind of keeping up to date with what is happening there, the US really is not doing much there. There's been attacks there, but I think it's more or less with Israel. Now, Israel is fighting for their survival. We've got to understand that the Syrian government, as well as the Iranian government, with their proxies in Syria, they've got a plan to destroy Israel. Now, Israel is fighting so that Iran, which will, within a matter of time, days, probably weeks, I don't really know the time scales that is being done. I would probably Muhid will could know that. But the US is about to lift sanctions on Iran. Now Iran has been working to um to to finish up and to finalize their nuclear program. That is what Israel is fighting against. They don't want Iran to have a nuclear bomb or to have a nuclear program because they feel, and probably rightly so, that if Iran ever completes their uranium and they're able to make a bomb, the first bomb that they make is heading straight for Jerusalem, and that is what the Israeli government is running away from. Not so much the U.S., but it's the Israeli government that is more or less doing damage in Syria. So there are conflicts in this world. What is happening in Ukraine is very much overshadowing what's happening in in um in Syria. And you can think in other areas also, like in
yeah,
Africa with with Boko Haram and all of them factions down there. They're still killing down there. Is anybody saying anything down there?
Yes,
Nothing.
yes.
Look at China. Every now and again, you hear a commentator saying, "Oh, China is watching what's
And
happening in Ukraine
yes,
because they've got their eyes on Taiwan."
Time.
So what's going to happen there? So there, there are some things that's taking place in certain parts of the world that's looking on how is the U.S. because they seem to be coming down in stature.
yes,
How are
yes.
how are they reacting to what is happening in Ukraine so that they can now plan whatever they are planning because the U.S. is not. It doesn't seem to me that the U.S. government has an appetite for war. Not even the government, the people. It doesn't look like they have an appetite at all for any type of conflict.
But at the same time, while the U.S. government has no appetite, I do recall Bill Clinton shaking hands with Yasser Arafat, and I think it was Ariel Sharon or Perez at that time. Um, Bill Clinton also was with Northern Ireland and the UK. You're not seeing America standing the ground and going inside there and say, "Come on, guys, let's talk." Everybody's actually on one side calling Putin this madman. So how can they have any sort of discussion, Muhid? How can there be any sort of discussion with a madman if everybody's saying he's a madman?
No,
Nobody's actually, nobody's.
no,
I mean, is it Turkey? Maybe Turkey's the one who is actually playing a role. Please go ahead, sir.
no, no. For my view of this current crisis, either there is two blocks. One block is a visible block, and the other one is an invisible block, right? I would say it's like a stalking horse.
Yeah.
The stalking horse strategy, where how they use the horse, and I think it's a very popular bird. Like what the cowboy does is he covered his image with the horse, and he will slowly move towards the bird because the birds which won't fly away, will always be closer with the horse. So what they does is they go closer by using the horse as a cover up. They cover up themselves with the horse, and they're just slowly walking. And then they go closer, and they will watch and see if the bird doesn't fly, they will go and grab it. If the bird flies, they don't come out of that cover. With the horse again, they will just slowly move away to make sure that they are not make sure that the birds are not aware, not they don't see there's a cowboy, behind the horse, right? Covering with the horse, right? So the similar tactics here is like if you see the situation, one block is a very visible block, which is called, like, say example, European Union, NATO, things like these bodies. And there is another block, which is like, which is very invisible, uh, which might come into visible if Russia is going to winning this war against NATO. And
Mm.
it's something like a new world order, I would say, like, a new block is will become visible, which we don't know. Maybe like China, Russia, like the certain number of bodies with people who are in the middle of this game. For example, India. India is playing as a middle role between Ukraine and Russia. Example, Israel. Like there are many countries, they are just playing a very middle path in this particular crisis. You see
Yes.
this UN vote and all those things. But if that visible means, like, if they are losing the war, if the Russia is losing the war, that means losing mean if the NATO is grabbing, NATO is going to controlling with Ukraine and against Russia, then might be these blocks won't visible like this talking of strategy. But if the Russia is going to winning against NATO, then this might block comes out. So that is what I am seeing at the moment. Okay, but all I had to say that is, if you're looking at these two blocks, one of the block are playing a role as a middle path. They are not saying we are supporting Russia, but they are saying we don't support both. And there are people who are openly supporting Ukraine, and there are people who are openly supporting Russia. But those two crowds doesn't have a moral responsibility to come for a peace dialogue. But the people who don't support either side, who are in the middle ground, they have a moral responsibility to become as a mediator. Because in this tussle, what I saw, Russia is making the peace mediation. That means the place. They said, okay, we are going to have a peace talk with Ukraine in Belarus, which is Russia is stealing, right? But what I have to say that is Ukraine should not decide who should be the peace mediator.
Yeah.
Russia should decide who should be, and also they both should not decide where is the place they were going to mediate. It is the people who are, it is the countries who are in the middle has to come voluntarily, and they must decide a place, and they must come forward and said, okay, we will become the mediator, and we will start the dialogue between these two countries. That is the only way we can build the peace. Other than that, it will become partial talks. It will always fail, and the people will continue to suffer in Ukraine.
And we just keep going on and on. Is it Gary? I mean,
Yes.
there's no sort of, what should I say, light at the end of a tunnel, as we are seeing now. I mean, today there was supposed to be this discussion with the Russian foreign minister and some other people, and with Turkey. Nothing seemed to come out of that as well.
Well, I don't think
Gary?
any. I really don't, believe that there is going to be any peace. Really, as you said, I think it was you that said earlier on, Sylbourne, that war just does not finish. It doesn't end. Wh-
Mm.
when is this going to happen? Um, Let me just. I mean, Michelle has been saying some stuff on this. Blame. I can't really say that the U.S. is the problem here.
Yeah.
She mentioned that the U.S. go in and create coup de coup detents. Well, that is one thing. But when you look at the history of the countries within the Middle East and within Africa, like Iraq, she's mentioned Iraq and Libya. But these countries in those distant lands were taken over by colonialism. It wasn't the U.S.
Mm.
They were taken over by I believe it was it France? They went in and controlled Libya. When you look at Iraq, it's almost the same thing there. I don't know if Britain had an issue with that,
Yeah.
but the thing about it is that US always seems to get the blame. Okay, fine, I can understand that. They are the
Superpower.
the superpower. You know, the,
Antagonizer.
yes, and they've got the CIA
Bubble.
and everybody to go and do what they're doing. I understand
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's fine. They have done damage, but again, you've got to look at the colonial powers within Europe, and England has a lot to do with that.
Mm.
France has a lot to do with that. Germany has a lot to do with what happened down there. The Dutch Netherlands has a lot to do with what's happened in Africa and all of that. Not only the U.S. So
Belgium. Yeah.
the problems of our world today, right, is not only just U.S. U.S. has just been around for 200 plus years. Yes, it's the colonial powers that existed long before the U.S. came along. They are the ones also that has caused a lot of the problems in 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 the Middle East, in Africa, even in China.
So therefore, so
Go
therefore, I think we can rightly say then that we are seeing the real warmongers, the real warriors, the real tribes coming alive. The real, as someone said, drink water and mind your own business because God is purifying the world. Not my words, but what someone said. But can I just ask this question here? And I want to share this here. Um, you might not see this in your head, but What is a war crime, and could Putin be prosecuted over Ukraine? There's an image which I have up there, and many people are now talking, saying they are gathering evidence. You know, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky has described an attack on a maternity and children hospital as a war crime. It may not seem like it, but even war has rules, as the International Committee of the Red Cross put it. These are contained in the treaties called the Geneva Convention and a string of other international laws and agreements. What is a war crime? Civilians cannot be deliberately attacked, nor can the infrastructure take the vital to survival. But then someone reminded me, guys, before I open this, that if you're a country and you're inviting your civilians to fight war and arming them, then your civilians gonna get hurt, isn't it? Muirhead?
Okay. Now let me tell you the first thing is uh, in which place Ukraine has announced that they are going to have a war against Russia, and which place I think the Russia only announced that we will going inside Ukraine. Okay, Ukraine never announced that we are going to have a war against Russia. So the first part of this entire scenario is going inside a sovereign state without any prior permission. Even there is nothing. Even the UN has not given any permission as an international body. Just a country, neighbor country, without any valid reason. You know, uh, they have not even joined the NATO. They were just planning to join the NATO, right? Uh, Without any reason, like they have just been inside. So it's an invasion. It's an illegal entrance into a sovereign state. For example, I would say uh, a thief enters inside a house, right? And a thief is, say a robber who kills the house owner. It's a murder. But the other way around, if the house owner kills the robber who trespassing inside the house without his permission, it's a self-defense. Now here is like whatever the Ukrainians are doing, they are self-defensing against a person who is illegally came inside, and they are making an atrocities against their people. It's not about, we can't call this as a war.
So, so
That
okay,
is the first part.
okay. Hi, Lester. How are you doing, sir? So
I'm great.
good. So what you're saying, Muirhead, then is that it is not a war crime because it's not a war.
No. I'm saying is like it even, yeah, they are entering into the territory of Ukraine is a war crime,
Okay, so it's a war crime.
But
because
Lester,
because
Muirhead,
there is no war between both countries. They never announced a war, and in
well,
what basis they went inside? So even we are talking about Russia, sorry, Iraq. We are talking about Iraq, like we are saying that Tony Blair and George Bush are accountable. There are many experts are saying they are accountable for war crime. Still, what they did is they went and they have done some sort of a you know some legislation in the House of Commons, as well as with the with the UN approval. I think they went in, right, but
yeah.
still the reason is not valid. Now here
Okay,
also the same thing. Now they
yeah.
said WMD was there. There is no WMD. But here is like, what is the reason they are going inside? So
Okay,
that is also a war crime.
we got another guest, Lester Percival. Lester, you're saying welcome, sir, for the late entry
welcome, welcome,
from
welcome.
Netherlands.
No
Yes,
problem,
yes, NATO
no
country.
problem. Yes, yes, yes. Um, Muirhead, your example that you give just now about the thief and the entering the house. If that same thief robs the house and is leaving the house, and the house owner kills him while he's leaving the house, it's not self-defense, it's murder, right?
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
now NATO had an agreement with the USSR, with Russia, that certain territories they would not encroach on, right? And we have seen over the last 15 years or so that they're steadily encroaching closer and closer into Russian territory. Now, if it were the other way around, if Vladimir Putin was trying to set up a military base in Mexico, right? The response from the United States military would be swift and harsh on Mexico.
And this
United
is
States would not have United States would not have a Russian military base in Mexico. They would not have it.
Muir?
Yeah, your point. You're
Yes.
asking me.
I'm
I
telling
think
you.
I think what he,
Yeah.
yeah, actually he's telling you.
Oh, okay. I'm listening. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what Lester is actually doing is sort of balancing the whole thing regarding the a lot of hypocrisy is what the thing is, and that is what makes this stink regarding this whole thing. Because, and I believe, and I sense why America is even pulling back because they recognize that they do not have the moral authority, or is it because the president is still asleep? It's either those two things. Either they come to themselves and realize we do not have the moral authority, we do not want this war. Even though I do question the foreign secretary or the foreign secretary for America, the minister, the secretary of state, I don't think he has much sense really because he's saying some things that really is concerning. The guy named Blinkton, I think he's blinked out or something like that. They're in the sleep zone, both of them. I don't know if you listen to him, Gary or Muir Gene, but I think America maybe is actually saying that we do not have the moral authority or we just do not want the war. But what America is missing out on is that America normally, even though, as Gary said and as Michelle said, there are historical implications of how America acted with Hiroshima, and you can list them, but still they always go in and have a strong voice. And for this time, America has no voice. Even Boris
Sylbourne,
Johnson is looking better than America.
No, no,
Sylbourne, let me. Sorry, Muhammad. What
Yeah.
what
yeah.
what I would like to say here is this: if if Trump if Trump was not elected as president of the United States when he was, the U.S. in my mind would have been probably in a better position to do what they would have wanted to do if they had to do something. But because, in my mind, Trump, he did certain things to weaken America's stance in the world and in Europe, i.e., that is, he 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 said he's withdrawing funding out of NATO,
Mm.
and if he had come back in this time around, he would not. America would not have had anything to do with NATO probably because he was saying that why should America be the police of the world? So I believe to some extent that um, that America, whether they had the moral standing or not, they would have done it anyway.
Yeah.
We see their action in history, but because militarily, I don't think that they were ready. They never had the planes where they wanted them to be in Ukraine. And Russia has taken that advantage. They have seen what America has done. One, pulling out of Afghanistan, a total shambles. The whole world knows about that. America is ashamed of that. I personally do not know why Biden did what he did. I don't know why because he could have done it better,
I don't think he knows himself. He's
right?
still asleep.
But, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
No,
No. No. um. Um. I don't know if you said it earlier because I joined late, but the tone of this conflict, the tone of the European nations towards the conflict is very embarrassing for intelligent nations, right? Um, I have never, I did not see the same heartfelt sentiment towards the invasion of Iraq and other brown nations, you know? But the reports from the media and the reports from heads of government around the world regarding this white nation or European nation, it is as if that how could this really happen? It's not like one of those brown countries, not one of those other countries. This is the tone you're getting that we can't believe that this is happening to other white people. And several journalists have even had to apologize about their tone and their rhetoric in recent times. But the world did not cry or have not cried over the years what France has done and is doing to Haiti,
Mm.
right? So, but when we look at how brown and black countries are treated in geopolitics, in war, and these things, the sentiment towards these countries, even from our own brown and black people, is very harsh. And when it is happening to a nation that is civilized, we get a very heart wrenching, heart pouring out to these nations, and it's very sad.
Yeah, it is sad. It is sad, guys. And as we watch as things unfold, we just hope that somehow good sense will prevail. And the only reason I'm saying this now is because we're out of time. And thanks for guys for coming on. But Muhid, I know you're in Sri Lanka and it's now what 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You want to sleep?
I promised you. I promised you. Yeah, I'm going to sleep now. I promised you, but I had to come. Okay, I'm here now.
What's your last word? And how do
Yeah,
you?
the last word. The last word is very clear. Very clear. I'll tell you that uh, Ukraine is the bait of the hook put by the NATO and the other Western blocs to catch the whale, Putin. Right here, the strategy of Putin is like a surgeon. Sorry, it's like a butcher, and
Yes.
the NATO and other blocs are behaving like a surgeon. So you know that both are going to cut in the flesh. The strategy is cutting the flesh, but the Putin's, the approach you can see as a butcher, but this Western bloc's approach you can see as surgeon. Once they cut, once they completed the cut, only they will feel it. There's a flesh has been taken away, right? So the same thing the Western world is doing is what are they doing? It is they are demoralizing the military strategy of Russians because they are allowing because they know that 100% of Ukrainians are behind Zelensky and they are resisting. So that's not easy for any powerful army who goes inside to a nation where 100% resisting, public resistance. So that place, the morality is going down, and the other way around, what the West is doing is they are just only supporting. They are just only supporting the resource support. Plus, they're cutting off all the the facilities through the sanction in Russia, where the people of Russia also become agitated against the Russian government, and that is the place I think the NATO and the US will play its real role. At the moment, they are just playing a game of pushing the pawns of the chess game, and waiting with the bishop and the queen and king to come and play at the last moment,
Yeah,
where to put the checkmate on Putin. So that is their plan.
Gary, where you see things unfolding? Think next week, 7 days time. In 7 days time, we'll have some resolution.
Well, I don't know about a resolution. I mean, I think that Muhid may be right in that Putin, he's he's a strategist. He knows exactly what he wants to accomplish, whether he does it or not. And I think Muhid said it correctly. He's a butcher. I mean, when you see a butcher in a butcher shop, he doesn't have a scalpel or whatever to, do minute cuts. Him just a chop. Him just, him just put on the machete, and then we say they'll put on the machete in where him want it. Whereas the Europeans now, right, the Western or NATO, they're going in with a fine knife, doing their precision cuts here, looking at things, strategizing, negotiating, and saying, well, we will take this and we want that. While Putin not bothering to in just a chop. But also what Lester has said, which was quite interesting, I have not heard it like that before, was that it's a white country. It's a white. It's not brown skin. It's not like Afghanistan. It's not like Africa. They're not going in there with guns blazing and drop parachuter or paratroopers, and all of that. It's that negotiation. We want negotiation. It's like January of last year. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? These are the same men that want negotiation and the blinking and all of that. Can you imagine the horde that left Trump? If it was black people, can you imagine what they would have done?
Yeah.
Guns blazing, man, guns blazing. And look what the police did when they got to Capitol Hill. Barricades. They didn't want to spray. They didn't want to use their guns. They didn't even want to use their truncheons. They did nothing in comparison to how they treated, you know, the black man down in Minnesota or wherever, or Minneapolis or whatever.
Minneapolis, yeah.
Yes.
There are distinctions in how they treat. Even, I mean, it was sad enough to know that even our black sisters, if I can say that, wanted to get on a train. I think one of them got on a train and she was pulled off, saying they want women. Ukrainian women must go on the train first. You see, there are differences in how people are being treated by the color of their skin,
Yes.
even in war times. Even in war times,
Can
there's
I?
a
Yeah.
difference.
Can I just interject right there because Reza Usted who was on the show last week, and fortunately his picture is right there. This is what um, this is what he said, and I just played. Psychologically speaking, it's not easy for a human mind to kill the people who look like them and speak the same language. Many Ukrainians speak Russian. It feels like killing your own brother, and that's one of the drama, one of the challenges regarding this war, as Reza just said a while ago. You know, it's like they're killing each, and that is why maybe Putin. I don't know. They're killing themselves. We don't want that sorry, white and white crime. Ladies and gentlemen, listen. Lester, last word.
Yeah,
Um,
I gotta
Sorry,
go.
from
Is that
you gotta go. Murad, listen. Thank you so much. I'm gonna let you go,
yeah?
Murad. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
and
too
we'll
late.
join
yes.
Yeah,
tomorrow, sir.
you take care. Take care. Nice,
Yes,
nice,
sir.
nice,
Thank
nice to
you.
talk to you all.
Um,
Yeah, take
Thank
care.
you.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Sylbourne,
Yes.
my heart bled when I saw the F-19s and the F-21s fighter jet for 48 continuous hours, dropping 5,000 bombs on the city of Baghdad. Many innocent lives, many children were killed, right? What we're seeing happening now, we are living in unprecedented times, and the war has just begun. Vladimir Putin is a bully. Vladimir Putin is a strategist, he's a chess player. He's also a proud man. He will not turn back. It is just a quarter of his army that is in Ukraine.
Don't you think sometimes that when you listen to the media, that sorry, I turned that down. Don't you think when you listen to the media, sometimes it sounds like Ukraine is winning the war?
Yeah, because we're listening to Western media. That's why.
I just said a while ago, the USA has put the sanctions against Iran immediately to increase supply gas. All of it under the failure for the USA and Petrocarib as well. Venezuela.
Anyway, my last word is long live Vladimir.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, want to thank you so much for coming on. Lester, thank you for coming on for the last bit of the show there. And
Blessings.
Cam said we never did a one here, but that's another thing we have to talk about another time regarding Jamaica. Has now lots, Jamaica has now lots of different currencies now. Lester, what's going on with the Jamaican currencies? There's lots of currencies now in Jamaica.
The Jamaican currencies have been Europeanized.
Is that what you say? What you say Europeanized?
Because that's how it look. Europe money pretty, you know.
Europe money print. I thought they were trying to make it relevant. That's what the Minister of Finance said. It is to
Mm,
make it all relevant again with pretty colors. But
well,
that's for
okay.
Saturday night still. Ladies and gentlemen, that's for Saturday night talk and sip. Want to thank you so much for coming on. Those on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Michelle, thank you.
Good
And
night. Rev.
Reza,
All right, then listen. Come
Yeah.
back next week if you can.
yeah,
All right, no problem.
yeah. God
All
bless
right,
you. Bye, Gary. Thank you.
all right then,
Cheers.
Sylbourne.
Cheers. Let's just stay about. Stay. Don't go anyway. So, ladies and gentlemen, listen. I want to thank you so much for joining tonight on the show, and God bless you. Have a good week. Saturday night, remember to come on to watch, be a part of Talk and Sip. I think we're going to touch on a lot of things regarding Jamaica as well. We're going to touch on the war. Definitely, we're going to touch on that. Hopefully, we should see some light at the end of the tunnel by that time. We don't believe that this thing is going to go on for too long. So I want to thank you so much. Remember to like and subscribe to the show as well. And see you around another time. Okay? God bless you. Bye bye.